So I've been doing a lot of curating for a lot of these models that are here, okay? And I've also been doing this stuff for a long time. When I was living in Indiana and New Jersey, I also repaired models of all kinds for different kinds of little museums like this. And when I was in New York, I actually did some pieces for like 6 different little museums that are in New York City in Manhattan. So what I've done is working here, coming in on Tuesdays and delivering and taking these models that we have to fix. They just don't work. Here, take care of this. I fix them, I issue a bench report, blah, blah, blah. But people are always asking me, how did you do that? And I said, you know, we're all familiar with the standard kinds of tools, so I'm not going to go through all of that stuff, right? So, you know about your screwdrivers and your hammers. Everybody's got big little screwdriver sets, and they're plastic hammers or whatever, right? You know about your glues and paints and all kinds of things that you use for general stuff, right? And all your materials, you know, your wood and cardboard, brass, whatever. And your solvents like alcohol or MEK or acetone. I did not want to bring those because it's hot outside in the car, and especially MEK. MEK is what they're pushing right now in the market is they call it MEK replacement. All right? Don't buy that. It's crap. All right? Buy MEK. All right? You can get it at Ace Hardware. Okay, you can buy MEK. Problem with MEK is it's very, very volatile, right? You got to use it in a properly ventilated space. Okay, MEK is one of the major constituents of your styrene solvents. So in a pinch, it'll work, you know, for your putting styrene buildings and stuff like that together. But it's nasty stuff, right? You're going to want to wear, the only thing that works are these nitrile gloves. So you always wear it. It'll get absorbed right through your skin. So I didn't bring any with me. So I get these questions, you know, how did I do that? What did I use? What's the name of that thing? Right? So I'm going to show you a whole bunch of stuff that I have. This is the odd stuff that people don't normally use. Start off real quick, chemicals, lubricants, and glues. Bestine, okay? There it is there it is right there. You look at it later, right? Notice one thing, it's made by Speedball. Speedball have any meaning for anybody? You know who Speedball is? They started out making pens for calligraphy. You ever heard of Speedball pens? Huh? Okay. So they needed a solvent for their ink, so to India ink and stuff like this. So they happened to have found this company, Bestine, and then they bought them out and blah, blah, blah. But at any rate, this stuff here is fantastic, right? Carbon tetrachloride from way back when, the 50s and the early 60s there, very good. You could take a pencil lead and dip it in carbon tetrachloride and then go like this, and it would just turn into black mush. It dissolves the carbon covalent bond, okay? Bad feature about it, it also dissolved the carbon covalent bonds inside your liver, okay? And it killed a lot of people, okay? So they took it off the market. You can still get it, but it's only used industrially. Public, you usually can't buy it. So they came out with this. This turns out is a replacement for it. So what you use it for is the carbon crud that develops on all your wheels. That's caused by arcing. Microscopically, as a powered wheel rolls down the rail, not as it rolls into the rail and makes contact, it's as it breaks contact as it rolls away, an arc develops. And it will take the carbon, you'll smell the ozone, right? Ozone is O3. Well, where did that come from? Well, it came from the carbon dioxide that's in the air, strips the oxygen off, CO2, right? And what do you have left over? Carbon. Where's the carbon go? Onto the wheels, onto the track, okay? This stuff will dissolve that carbon bond, which is really pretty good. So it makes it good for a lot of rubber-based stuff, which is rubber cement or goo from different kinds of glues and stuff like this. It will dissolve tires on your car. Okay, it dissolves vulcanized rubber. So, Bastine. You want to find out where to buy it? Use your camera, take a picture of it, or use that Google thing, and you can find out where to buy it. I am not touting any place where to buy this stuff unless I don't, you know. Anybody ever bonded themselves with CA? All right. So this stuff is called Extreme Power Cyanoacrylate Debonder. It works really, really well. It's in that little bottle, the second one right there. What it does is it breaks the nitrogen bond in the cyanoacrylic, and it works really good. So what it's good for is if someone has CA bonded some sort of a shaft inside a hole. You kind of know what I mean, right? This stuff here, you put it around the base of it, and it will walk itself down inside that hole and dissolve that CA. Okay, so you can just take it apart. Works on your fingers too. Works real well if you glue your fingers together. Even very cured CA, 5-year-old joints, it just opens them up, right? So even on your styrene buildings or stuff like this where you say, well, now I want to modify it or something, but I've crazy glued it on the corner here, CA on the corner, put this stuff on it, right? And it will separate. Okay, it's really pretty good. You might have to clean it up. Careful using it around armatures, which are only coated with with enamel. The magnet wire is coated with enamel. That's it. It will strip the varnish, this enamel varnish, right off, and all the wires will be shorted together. Okay, so don't use it around armatures. Next, we have OOPS, which is an absolutely fantastic stuff. It will dissolve acrylics, enamels, lacquers, Tamiya paint. In the shake cans, markers, inks, all kinds of, some people have those staining pens that you run down your track to make them look rusty. They come in you don't know about staining pens, huh? Rather than painting the rails, you have a thing that just looks like a pen. Right? And it fits right in the web of the rail, and you go, whoosh, oh. Now it's all rusted. It looks great. It'll dissolve that stuff, right? It'll take anything that's gooey and tarry, literally squash bugs on your car, or you drive on a newly paved road and there's tar all over your car. It'll take that stuff off too. Actually, it doesn't hurt to paint, okay? Because that's... Well, yeah, it'll take off paint, but acrylics, enamels, and lacquers, all right? But it doesn't go through gel coat, which is good. Right? And the surface that it does dissolve, like on our plastic bumpers that we have, it will, but those things are colored all the way through, so they're kind of okay. In Alabama, right, this stuff is only sold to adults, so it's kind of like a liquor store thing. Right? If you look too young, you have to show an ID in order to be able to buy it. All right? Because it is what has been used in the past by people who are called huffers. You know who huffers are? They put some in the bag like this.
Paint can guys.
Paint can guys, right? This.
And they'll also get you, if you try to get a bit spray paint where you go through a soft checkout.
Yeah.
It'll say, wait for an associate.
Right, right.
And they have to come flush it back.
Okay, so it's really toxic. It destroys brain cells and everything else. The reason I'm saying all this stuff, MEK, all this stuff, use it in a ventilated space, okay? Liquid tape. Any electricians know Scotch 33 and 33 plus, right? That's your electrical tape, okay? This stuff is Scotch 33, but it's a liquid, okay? So what you do, it vulcanizes in air at room temperature, so you don't leave the cap off, okay? You can thin this out with MEK, but do it in a ventilated space, right? You dip a small amount on whatever your favorite spreader is and cover your electrical contacts with it, right? Small amount, and then spread it around, right? And it'll start to vulcanize right away. Okay, so don't touch it. It's like throwing a steak on the barbecue. Leave the thing alone. Let it cook. Okay? About an hour, right? And it's dry, and then it's dry to the touch, and it insulates. Good stuff. Bare conductor electric paint. Okay? Oh yeah. It's carbon-filled latex paint is what it is, but there's an additive that also evaporates the latex, okay, which is really good. It's water-soluble, it remains flexible. It's carbon-filled with microcarbon. It can be used to assure electroconductivity between dissimilar metals that cannot be soldered, okay? So, like stainless steel and copper or brass. If you have putting a brass wheel or a brass hub, anything on a steel shaft, and you need electrical conductivity, right? Just a little smear of this stuff when you put it on. Or you've got a plug, even those DCC plugs. It's just not making, I put it in, it's not making contact, right? Take a little of this stuff, put it on your fingers with your gloves, and just wipe the contact with it so you get a little of this stuff on. Then when you put it together, right, this stuff will fill the gaps that are inside those connectors, and it'll assure the electrical contact. But you got to let it dry.
Okay. Let's say, does it dry out hard?
It dries out flexible, all right, which is good because if you use it on...
I like that bottom one there. How long does that sit?
Oh, this stuff here? Until how long does it take latex paint to dry? 20 minutes, half hour, right? So, and it is great for this kind of stuff if you've got remote controls.
Yeah, I've got some direct TV remote control.
Right.
I have some buttons that don't work with it.
Take this stuff, not a lot, just a little on those carbon buttons that are on the inside. Makes it work great. Crafter's Pick. As a matter of fact, this month's NMRA magazine just came out. I just got it in the mail yesterday. What's the very first thing old tool guy's got on his? There it is right there. All right? I didn't even know he was doing this. They make this magazine up 3 months in advance. So, except for they actually got the convention in here, which is really pretty good. It was about 3 months ago. Anyway. So, Crafter's Pick. What's good about it? They call it super glue, and by golly, it is pretty super, but it's not what we mean by super glue. I'm sorry, I lost my thing. It's not CA, right? It's water soluble, right? And for thinning or removing. But if you use it to thin it, right? It is not a volumetric thinner. And what I mean by that is, if I've got dish soap and I want to dilute it, I say, well, I've got a cup of dish soap, I'll throw a cup of water in with it and it'll dilute it 50-50, right? And make it really runny. You can't do that with this. You put a little bit of water in it, okay? And it will thin itself out chemically. So you don't put in a lot, you put in a little and then you mix it. You put in a little and then you mix it. Like I like to do. I like to squirt a little out on my piece of glass instead of having to squeeze the bottle all the time. Okay. Goes on white, dries clear, just like Canopy Glue, okay? And it works very, very well as a contact cement. You don't want to use Wellwood contact cement. It's too bulky and it's too, use that for laminating,
Zero working test.
yeah, or mica or something like that on top of a piece of plywood. This stuff here is made for the modeler, right? It's very, very fine molecules and stuff. So you take it, a little bit of it, you water it down just with a couple of drops of water, right? Mix it up, spread it out on a surface, right? You need 060 plastic for something, and you only have 020 sheets laying around. What do? Laminate them, right? Roll it out with a roller, and you've got 60. See what I mean? Contact cement. You thin coat each surface, wait until it's just dry, right? And then mash it together. And it's also a great choice for dissimilar metals. You can, or dissimilar things. You can glue copper onto plastic. Now, why would you want to do that? Or bakelite or whatever. When I get a lot of these Lionels, I have to reface the commutators, all right? They're just burnt up because of whatever, right? Some of them I can recondition, others I can't. So you have to unsolder the wires that go to them, and then you take the copper sheet off, right? Scrape it off because it's all cracked and broken and burnt and scored. Cut yourself a new piece of copper, and that thing that's going to sit on is bakelite. And you use this stuff to mount it with. Okay, solder the wire back onto it. You've got a nice commutator face. Now you stick the commutator in the electric drill, and you make sure that all your commutators, all your sections are at the same height. Great. Aleen's Tacky Glue. You get those flyers in the mail, and you open them up, and there's that strip of sticky stuff on it. That's that stuff. Okay. Okay, that's it. What's nice about it is, just like, that thing went through the mail and went through all kinds of machines and it stayed together, didn't it? So it's good for things that may need to be taken apart eventually, or from time to time even, like useful when you have to place a structure or plant trees. And instead of breaking the tree off because you used Elmer's glue to put it in with, right? Use this stuff. You just wiggle it a little, just like your mail, and it comes out. Then you stick a toothpick in there and stuff and pull it on. You pull out the dried snot. Okay? Works good. You can pull it apart. This stuff also is a chemical thinned by water. Okay? You notice where it says up there, use only as much as you need. It thins with small amounts of water. It's a chemical thinning, not a volumetric thinning. Okay. Canopy Glue. Everybody loves Canopy Glue. Goes on white, dries clear. It was developed originally to attach hard plastics like acrylic, right, to softer plastics like polystyrene, which just happens to be acrylic canopies and styrene plastic model airplanes, okay? So it will not fog the acetate, which is any kind of an acetate or vinyl, or it will not fog the acrylic. Crazy glue will fog your clear acrylics and clear acetates. It's best used for dissimilar plastics, okay? Rather, not so much for the same plastic. I would not use this stuff to put two pieces of acrylic of the same kind together, right? Bullfrog Snot. Okay? This stuff here is it's a plasticized rubbery compound, okay? It turns into plastic, and you use it for traction. It dries, but it's a rubber tire surface. It's got the surface like a rubber band when it dries, okay? Interested in knowing about it, get on the internet, go to YouTube, put in Bullfrog Snot, and there's lots of videos on how to apply it. You got to usually turn your engine. What I do is I turn the engines upside down. You have to choose which wheels you're going to put it on because you don't want to interrupt the ability to pick your electrical pickups. So you don't want to put them all, the traction on all one side because you'll lose all your pickups, okay? So you got to take a look at it. And if you're having trouble with the problems that I've heard with it, oh yeah, you did a great job repairing my engine, but now when it goes over my double slip switch, it stalls. Okay, well that's because the tires that were, the wheels that were picked need to pick up power from here and up here, and if you put it across the two back ones, it opens.
I tried this on locomotive. Maybe I didn't know what I was doing, but I just could not get it on the track on the driving wheel even out. It was like.
Did you turn it upside down?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, you start the engine.
Yeah.
You pick up a little of this stuff on a blade screwdriver, and you lay it as the wheel is going away from you. And
it ended up being, a big blob on one side and thin on the other side.
you have to keep it on there, and you got to apply a little bit of pressure, and it will thin out. And as I say, watch the videos. Learn how to do it. Watch the videos. And it's a replacement.
A thin application of what you want.
Yes. Now, when you get it nice and thin, it has kind of a green, got a green tint to it, which turns clear. When it's clear, it's cured. Don't forget, it's a plasticizer. It has to cure in air. Okay? You can't just say, oh, it's dry to the touch. It's still kind of green, but it's dry to the touch. I'll put it on. No, it's not cured yet. Okay? You got to wait for it to cure. That's what I use on all these Lionels out here and on that Norfolk Southern engine that I fixed. And LPS1. Okay? This is a greaseless lubricant. Okay? And in a second, I'm going to cover what's the difference between grease and oil, okay? Under no pressure, right? It's sprayed on something. It's an insulator. If I was to spray it on a piece of glass and put my ohm meter on either side of the puddle, right? Not conductive, okay? However, if you put it on the rail and the wheel, okay, or just on a rail, right, when the wheel comes over it and presses down on it, this is why it says conductor under normal pressure. Normal means at 90 degrees, not usual, right? It means 90 degrees. So it's great for things like relay contacts. Okay? When the relay contacts come together, it conducts. But when they're apart, it's insulated. That's the judge's phone. Okay?
Reduces oxidation.
Not only does it reduce, it does it fantastically, right? It's good for putting on clean tracks. So you say, wait a minute, you can't put lubricant on a track? Yeah, you can. Okay? You put it on your track and let it dry. It dries in about an hour. 15, 20 minutes. Okay? But the wheels then will not arc. They can't arc. Okay? So wait a minute, arc. What else could I do with this? How about dressing a commutator with it that's got brushes, the old Lionel motors, right? as the commutator turns under the brushes, only where the brushes make push spring contact will there be conduction. So you won't have any of that arcing that you get. Okay, without arcing, you got no O3 formation, no ozone formation. Without the ozone, you don't have any corrosion.
I use that stuff on my track. Andy suggested it. This was a couple years ago.
Yep.
I had to have Frank Lashley get down. He lived there. He lives in ARAD. He went down to Venersville to get it at the ACE store. That was the closest ACE store we could get it. But anyway, it really works. I clean my track and I put that on. And I have one place where locomotives would get there and they would just slow down. I have no idea why. That one section was about a foot. They would just slow down. I put this stuff on them and there was no reduction in speed at all as it crossed that particular area. So it really, really works.
Thank you for the testimonial. Okay. Now, for greasing, all right, I use Labelle 106, okay? What is a grease? Greases are non-migratory. The grease doesn't move. Grease doesn't move. You remember old time, anybody ever fix their cars when they were younger and all this stuff, right? You had a grease called cup grease or axle grease. That was the name of it, right? And if you went like this with it, you could see it separate almost into fibers. Okay? That's because the difference between grease and oil is grease is long chains of molecules. Oil are round little balls. The difference between them. So grease won't flow. You put grease on a wall, it'll stay there. Okay. So this is good for stuff where you need it to stay in place and not migrate and screw up your electrical conductivity on other stuff. So wheel hubs and axles, right? Bearings and bushings, sliding surfaces, mechanical sliding surfaces. You got box cars that the doors actually open on, okay? Put a little bit of it down in there and they'll open nice and smooth, that kind of stuff. Sliding surfaces. People yell at me. Coupler boxes, right? Way back when, I had a chance to buy 500 pair of KD couplers. Real cheap, real KD, right? So I did. So I'm still using 1958 KD couplers, okay? And you have to assemble them. They've got a box and they got a spring inside and all that kind of stuff. You remember the old KD couplers, okay? You put some grease on that, even the modern ones with the whisker springs on them, you put grease on that center peg. Right? Just a little bit, not a lot. Don't fill up the coupler box with grease. Just put it on there, right? And if you want to, slide it around the inside of the box and grease the inside of the box. The springs will move real nice, you know. Sliding surfaces, very little. Also, the universal joints from the can motors that go to the universal joint, which goes to your drive towers inside your new HO locomotives. That universal joint right there, right? Put Labelle 106 on it. So as it turns like this, right, you don't want that stuff flying off and going all over the place. Right? Okay, so you use grease. The other thing is the grease has very little volatiles in it, if any, which means if it's this thickness of grease today, it's going to be this thickness of grease 10 years from now. Okay. Next one down is Labelle 102 heavy oil. This is slow migratory, right? But what I like about Labelle has very low or no volatiles in their products, which means they're designed to stay the same thickness throughout their life, okay? You know what happened? Somebody was in here and said, oh, the thing has been, nothing, it's brand new, but it has been running 15 years, okay? In that amount of time, all the petroleum greases and lubricants, all the volatiles have come off and they've turned into gunk, okay? So what is this good for? It's good for gears and gear cases, okay? Pinions and spurs and worms, okay? Drive towers. It's also for any kind of seals that you might have. You have O-ring type seals, and you also have these gasket rings, if you know what I mean. It's kind of like an O-ring, but it's not round. It fits inside a groove. Okay, we call them gasket rings. Great stuff for that. So, then we go down to medium oil, okay? It's also migratory. It'll move, okay? But it has no volatiles in it also. That's good for the knuckle on the couplers, okay? You know, thing that swings open like this. It's great for that, okay? Valve gear on a steam engine, okay? Great for that. Non-electrical moving parts, okay? Equipment. Dupont Connector Set. Here's a Dupont Connector Set. Right. In it, you get all kinds of cases with the blanks, all kinds of pins and sockets, and the tool. Okay? And these things are great. You can make them up. They come in a box like this, up to 6 in the floating connector, and you can see how many you get for the fixed connectors. All right. So what's great about it? Well, you can make your own. It's got male and female pins. Both of male and female fit into the same case. All right. So that means you can mix male and female pins in the same connector, so that you can make sure that you're mating the correct connector with the correct socket, as it were, plug-in socket. Okay, and they go all the way from single connections all the way up to manufactured 6-gang. However, you want 12, right? Well, you can take 2 6s or 3 4s or 4 3s or 6 2s or whatever. 12 ones, if that's all you got left, and put it on a glass. You know, you take them and line them up, and they will line up with the same 1/10 of an inch spacing, right? And you flood some glue underneath, styrene, you know, your regular styrene glue that you use, and they'll all fuse together as one. So you can make them up in any configuration. They also don't have to be spread out. Okay, take them, put one side, put them together, take a piece of adhesive tape, put it on, and take it, and you can wrap it around here and tape it. And then with your styrene glue or your plastic glue, go in and make them all together, slide it off, and you've got a connector in the shape of a ring to save space or whatever. You can do it. You want to make it in an S? You see what I mean? To make it fit, it'll go around the corner. All right. Now we got the other stuff. Parallel jaw pliers, right? You got stuff that's a little bit bent, okay? You need to flatten it out. Hold them up there. There you go. You can hold them up there. They're parallel jaw pliers, all right? They're great for, you can even take the waves out of plastic with them, right? What I do for embossing and things like that, you can buy covers that go over those jaws that have embossings on them, okay? And you take 1 cup of water, you stick it in the microwave and you boil the water, and you take the jaws of the pliers and stick it in there, heats up the jaws, and when you put it on the plastic and squeeze it, right, it embosses the plastic for you. Really nice, okay? So.
Made in England.
Huh? And your Scotch press lock connectors, you know, parallel jaws. Rather than using pliers, parallel jaws. Make sure that they mate properly. It acts like a press. The parallel motion is what's important. Now this is something that people, where the heck did you get that? I've got 2 pairs of pliers there, all right? And as you can almost see in the picture, these are called reduced thickness pliers. You see them? That's a regular pair of pliers up there. They're only half as thick. If you're trying to use those, you know what I mean by panel nuts? You know what a panel nut is? Very thin. So you got. How do you grab a hold of that thing, right? Especially if there's a knob or something underneath it, and you just want to use these reduced thickness slip joint pliers. Okay. You can, if you go up 20 here in Decatur, there's a number of electrical supply stores that supply stuff for the mills that are along the river here. They've got them. Okay, get them. Starrett clamps, also called parallel jaw clamps. Okay, here they are right here. And they're parallel jaws. And what you do is you hold on to them and turn them. And sure enough, they open. Right? See that? And they open and close parallel. So, why is that good? These surfaces, by the way, are machined to be square. Starrett is a very good, company. So, what can you do with it? You can actually use this thing as a mini press, right? You put a piece of material in it, and you can, like a brake press, and bend it over. Okay, so they're great, right? Make sure that everything is square. Because they're square, you can actually put them down the corner of a building or at the corner, right? And it will clamp at 90 degrees. Come in all different sizes. What's next? Everybody knows about a pair of end nippers, but they're usually big and fat at the end, aren't they? They curl around. These are long-nosed nippers, okay? So you can get down into places and reach down and suppose you got, like you're working on DCC and you've got, and I've seen this before, where you've got your circuit board down there and somebody didn't cut that pin off, when they mount the components on it and stuff, and you've got a piece of that pin sticking up, right? You can actually put this thing down in there and nip it right off, whereas those big ones that are curved like that at the end, that are like this, can't do that. Works really well. Also worked great as a sprue cutter. Right? You see those sprue cutters that you get that are shaped like that a little bit and stuff. These things work better. Okay, corner chisels. Those of you that are model makers and stuff. Okay, take that one out. All right. These are corner chisels. They're very, very sharp. All right. They're great. You come up, take a look at them. That one here, you put the corner where you want it, and then you hit that with a hammer, and then it comes out. So your window openings and things like that, you want that very, very square corner on them. Corner chisels. All different kinds of pliers, weird kind of pliers, right? I don't have any fingers in here, so you can't tell, but that looks like a regular pair of channel locks, and that looks like a regular vice grips, but there's the channel lock. Okay, great. Hold up those vice grips. Right? Use it for the same thing. It works fantastic. Next we have is the chaining. Oh, yeah, not yet on those. The chaining pliers. That's okay. Chaining pliers are used for making your own chains if you want to. I mean, that's where it came from. Okay. And you can grind those tips down as fine as you want and make extremely small chains. But what they're good for is curving things the way they're supposed to be curved after somebody drops it on the floor. Or what I use them for is inside these, a lot of HO or O gauge stuff, they have relays and components that have fingers on them, wiping fingers, okay? And somebody messes them up, right? So you have to reshape them and to put it all back together again. Then we have what we call trip pin pliers, which are also good. That's there for adjusting the trip pin on your KD couplers there. But it can be used to make anything that you want to turn round. You know what's good about those things? You take and you tin a piece of wire, right? And you need to make a loop on the end of it now that the solder's already on. People grab a hold of it and try to bend it, and what they do is break the unsoldered wires off. You put the solder end right in there and you go, and there's your curve that will fit under a screw or whatever. The point is the curve is already started. You can make it a little bit tighter. It works great. Special forceps and tweezers, all right? They're all laying here. We don't necessarily have to pull them out because there's big pictures of those up there are called decal forceps, okay? They're slightly bent, but there's two flat surfaces, and what they're used for is you wet your decal, you can slide it off the decal paper and position it where you want, okay? Underneath that, we have pearl forceps, right? Which is what jewelers use when they're stringing pearls or they're manipulating pearls. Those two indents that you see will hold a round thing. So a round head screw or a teeny round thing or whatever is round, right? You clamp it in there and you can manipulate it with pearl forceps. That big heavy one up there, those heat sink forceps, those work really great. And in combination with the wire, which I'm going to tell you about in a minute, it works absolutely fantastic for soldering, okay? They're fairly robust. They're reverse action.
On the end of that, you got a round hole in the wire that fits into. They also make tweezers like that that are just plain on the end. Reverse tweezers.
Yeah, reverse tweezers.
A lot of them are reverse tweezers.
Yeah. Yeah, and these are reverse also.
Yeah, that's the handle.
That's the, right.
When you're pressing together, it opens at the end. You let go of the spring and it holds
Right.
whatever you need. I love my setup.
Yeah. And you're the soldering man, so come look at these when you want afterwards. Needle tweezers. Believe me, they are sharpened to a needle point. These are needle point tweezers, right? They'll stick in anything you stick them with, including you, right? Which has happened to me. I'm sitting there in the summertime and I've got only a pair of socks on or something like this, and this thing, like you knock it off the top of the table, right? And they will stick right in your foot, okay? So they're very, very sharp. So they're very good for handling and picking out cat hair and dog hair that's stuck in your wheels and whatever. It'll pick one hair at a time, okay?
I use a pair of those to, when I'm preparing to do a 3D print, sometimes it spews out a lot more filament than I want. So I can go right in there, even in a very narrow place, and just squeeze that right off the head.
Yep, take it off the head. Yep, they're very good. Suture tweezers. Suture tweezers have a very unique head on them, okay? And it's excellent for picking at things. Almost all the DC motors have thrust washers on them for when they're running in reverse. And they're really hard to get off the shaft or wherever they're stuck, right? These things here, because of the shape of these heads, right? That's very sharp, very sharp. It comes around and you can take it off, right? So it's good for that kind of stuff. Ball tip embossers. Right? There they are right there, right? These things have ball ends on them. You can see the ball ends, All right, and you use these things for making your scratch building, for making your nail holes or your grooves, or you can carve your plaster work with them if you want to make a stone or tunnel portals on your own and stuff like this. You know, when you go for your awards at your trade shows or your conventions, everything that's been done by hand counts for you, right? Rather than purchasing a part, because you have to tell them everything that you've done to make it. So anything that you can make by hand, corrugated roofing, right? I happen to take medicine that comes with, encased in aluminum, that's about 2 mils, all right? It's really pretty, yeah, 2 mils. It's thin, but it's hard aluminum. It's not aluminum foil aluminum, which, by the way, aluminum foil that you get, it's about 40% holes. Did you know that? Put some water in aluminum foil and walk away. And you come back and the water's laying in the bottom of the glass. Yeah. Right? Aluminum foil has holes. That's why when you wrap meat or vegetables and stuff in aluminum and you freeze it, you always wind up with freezer burns on your food. Aluminum foil has holes in it. Now, if you don't think so, incredulous look,
Yeah.
right? You go in your grocery store and it says Alcoa aluminum. You know, it's 18 inches by, you read the side of it, it's 18 inches by 12 feet. And you go to store brand, Kroger, right? Aluminum foil, 18 inches, same amount of feet. All right? Now, one's a lot cheaper than the other. If they're both just aluminum foil, why is that? It's not thinner. Mic it, you'll see. It's just that the Kroger stuff has got more holes in it, up to 70% porous. It's less aluminum, but it's the same thickness. Anyway, carving and all this stuff. We can get very, very fine with this for end scalers.
Actually, those also work very well for burnishing dry transfer letters that are very, very small.
Yes, very small dry transfer letters also. Right? We can get all the way down to, right, these are called crewel, C-R-E-W-E-L, crewel needles. They also have a ball end on them, right? Very, very small. If anyone has ever tried, you've seen, I have, when you sew cotton, right, and you push the needle through, you don't care whether that needle passes through a thread that's already there, all right? But if you're dealing with something like nylon or any of the polyesters, you want the needle to go between the fibers. You don't want to break them when you stab them with a needle. So having a round end on it, as you go to push through it, it'll push the acrylon or nylon or Orlon aside, and it'll go through. It also makes itty-bitty end scale and Z-scale and nail holes and that kind of thing. We were looking at this before. You know, anybody that's ever worked with KD couplers, that spring goes flying all over the place, all right? Be it the kind that I have, I still have that spring inside, all of mine, okay, that coil spring, and also the knuckle spring. Well, this tool, and you can look at it later, right? What it has is, when you feel it, it has a flattened end on it. They drill a hole with it, and they push a ball into it. So this is, it's hard to see. I'm trying to show you, but there's a ball in there. That ball is about 1 1/4 times the diameter, its diameter is about 1 1/4 times the size of the spacing of the spring wire in the springs. So what you do is you take the spring, you push this thing into the center of the spring through the coils, this way. It stays there, and then you can thread this end on and thread the other end on and pull it out so it doesn't go flying all over the place.
That takes some of the fun out of it.
Yeah, okay, fun. Step on one of those springs with bare feet.
You gotta find them first.
Well, that's how you find them. The first thing you do is turn off the lights and take off your socks, and then you just walk around for a while, and it'll stab you in the foot. Mini gear pullers, all right? Got to work on HO and stuff like this. By golly, you need to be able to pull some gears. This is one of the smallest gear pullers I got, okay? They do make them that tiny.
The short ones have a good selection.
Yeah, yep. What I like about these is you got a specialty thing. These things are like $8. And if you need to grind the ends for so it'll fit, you do, right? And then you throw them away. And then you charge the customer for the new one. You want to be able to mark stuff, the center of an axle or whatever, or you need to spread something, or you've mounted an axle on a wheel on an axle, but you don't want to. You find a lot of this in Lionel, that they press fit their wheels on their axles, but you need an arbor press to get them back off again. Right? Because their wheels are usually so close to the chassis that you can't get the fingers of a wheel puller underneath. And also the material they're made out of in 1950, it's kind of a hardened pot metal almost. If you, you'll just snap the wheel in half, okay? But let's say you fix all that. You do get it, use an arbor press to press the axle out rather than pulling on the wheel. And you put it back together again, right? And you clean it, you maybe ream it a little bit so you can get it back together again without having to press it back together. But now you need to make sure that it stays in the place that it's in. So you use this guy, you put it between the axle and the hub itself, right? And you go like that, and it pins the two of them together, okay? So it's excellent. It also made a mark that'll never come out. Spring-loaded prick punch. They're called prick punches.
I just used one of those. I put gutter guards on my house, and I wanted to screw them down rather than just slide them up and under and clip them to the gutter itself. I used that to give myself a pilot start hole for the drill.
Yep.
So I can drill down through.
I usually pilot hard for everything, wood, metal,
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
That's one of my
I'm
favorite
gonna drill
tools.
something,
See that?
it gets hit.
Prick punches. Okay.
I got like
These
5 of them spread around.
for track work, right? These two things are great for track work. One is the center bubble level, and the other is the inclinometer, or they call it a digital angle gauge, but it's an inclinometer. Okay. What is the problem that we have? You say, wow, when I go over this particular section of track, I can get derailments, or I get, blah, 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 whatever it is. This guy here, if your track, and also if you have wherever Sandy went, a situation like Sandy where he does not have a helix, but what he does is he just has a slow rise all the way around. Working the industries and the sidings can be difficult because you then have to assure that where you're spotting your cars is level. Otherwise, these cars can go and start down you're working with always inclined track, okay? To make sure that you use one of these guys. So the bubble, when the thing is level in all directions, okay, the bubble's going to be in the middle, okay? So you slide it along your track and you shim and you do that and you do this and you do that to get it level throughout its whole length that you want to assure that this piece of track is flat, okay? It also works on the main lines where you're having a problem, okay? To that end, you want to assure as you're going up and down, up and down, up and down, that, I'm going to turn it on. so that you can play with it in a minute.
I'll pick it up at 115.
Okay, is a digital inclinometer, okay? And
They're used to set super elevation.
it's used to set super elevation. You also use it, you push the percentage thing, key on it, and it'll tell you what percent grade that you have. So if you want to maintain a particular percent grade, you can set it precisely to that. Refillable air bottles. You know, liquid air is expensive. It's $11, $12 a can. Okay, it's pretty expensive. But these guys here, right? This is a refillable air bottle. You can put liquid in it. You can unscrew it. You can put liquid in it if you want and use it for spraying liquid. I just use it for air, right? You know, I have 100-pound.
So I had a tube and it goes to the bottom.
Yeah. Okay. Also, it comes in a kit. This one doesn't have tube in it because I'm using it for air. But you install that tube, you unscrew it.
I've
Okay?
seen some that actually have a bladder in them as well.
Yeah. Oh, okay. This has a Schrader valve on it, just like your bicycle or your car, so you can use any kind of a pump to pump it up with, right? And if you're holding on to it while you're doing it, like you said, that first, I keep 100 PSI in mind, okay? And so I put it on here and I go, fill it up, right? Sucker gets hot real quick, right? Because you're compressing the air that fast, right? So, and it works pretty good. In this configuration, you can't push it. You have to raise it up and you spray air on.
It doesn't come out at 30 PSI.
No, I think it's 18 or something like that. Right? So you can get it down in those corners that are way down inside. Right? Way down inside. Yeah, it's an orifice thing. That are way down in those corners and on the inside and stuff like that. You can give them a little shot.
What does those things cost?
I don't know. Take a picture of it with your camera and go find out what it costs.
But the sandwich you can buy 4 of those air bottles for like $16.
Oh, good. If that's cheaper than that, fine.
So I'm just wondering how many air bottles they're going to replace before you've got your money back.
Depends on what air you're buying. So on yours, I'd say probably 12 or 16.
So you refill that with the charger valve,
Yeah, it's like a bicycle valve, you know, it's a tire valve. Materials, there's only a couple of these. Kapton tape, right?
Good stuff.
Good stuff. This particular one is 7,700 volts per mil insulation, right? It's also called polyamide tape if you want to look it up, right? Polyamide. It's a
Captain Tape will get it.
yeah, Kapton. Okay, it's very, very good. It's very high insulation. It's got pretty good stickum on it. Okay, and you use it where you have very, very little spacing or where you have moving wires and stuff like this. And it's also super duper smooth. So wiring that's like on your
DCC coder.
right.
Where I use it.
Use that to, when I install a coder and I got wires. So I got that fixed your lights and put windows on.
Yep.
Use that to take the wires.
Yep. Yep. Okay, Kapton tape. What's next? Wiring. A lot of the stuff I deal with was made in the 50s, the late 40s, 50s, and it was almost all used asbestos-covered wiring. Okay, not any. No, take it off. Take it off. Get rid of it. I work on a lot of these heaters and smoke generators and stuff like that. You know, those things get up to 300 degrees. When I rewire stuff, I only rewire it with this stuff, not this. And I have 3 different diameters. This happens to be 20 gauge. It's got 32 strands. Each one of them is already tinned, all right, which is very nice, okay? So it's very flexible. You can use it for pickup wires, which as the trucks turn, you know, the wire will turn with it and stuff like this. Works really good. The insulation is up to 500 degrees, which means you take this and you take this, right? and you clip it on there, after you've exposed the end of it. You don't have to tin it because it's already tinned, okay? What's good about the silicone insulation is it will not shrink as you solder, okay? Yeah, shrink back. And then you have exposed wire. So you can push this insulation right up to the connection, okay? And it will stay, then you don't have to get out your liquid tape and cover the exposed wire piece. Okay? It's available in 20, 22, 24, and 30. I have all of them. Heat shrink tubing, right? Any sizes, or you got whatever you need, but it should have these qualities. At least a 3-to-1 shrink ratio. When you get up to the 4-to-1s and 5-to-1s, it gets really expensive. Okay. Dual wall. I like the dual wall. All right. It gives the inner wall continues to compress because the inner wall is adhesive lined. The outside wall shrinks faster than the inside wall. Okay. So it melts that, as you're heating it, it melts that adhesive, and the outside wall shrinking faster than the inside wall assures that it presses all that nice adhesive lined stuff into the joint. So the outside wall is also flame retardant and it's chemical resistant. And of course that makes it waterproof. Well, if it's waterproof and the molecule is only this big, it's surely oil proof. Okay? Like I said, the difference between greases and oils is grease is long chains. They're fibers, is grease. Oils are cyclic. They're circles. They're balls. Okay? The study of lubrication is called tribology, right? Tribology, tribology. And they study the insulations, or they study the effects of it. That's very big, ball versus fiber shapes. Okay, and we're going to cover that in just a second. The last thing I have is these extremely teeny little bottle brushes. When you're trying to clean down there in a crevice or something like that, you're using a straight brush and you're trying to jab the ends down into the corner, right? Or suppose you're trying to clean out a shaft and you've got a paintbrush, you're trying to push it through there. Or you got to find a Q-tip or something that'll fit. These guys here, right, are itty bitty little teeny bottle brushes, and they look just like that. As a matter of fact, that looks like that finger. All right, so they're really small. They can get down into those holes, right? One of the things that you can usually use locally to clean stuff with is Brasso, believe it or not. Okay, a little bit of Brasso. As soon as you start to smell the ammonia smell coming from Brasso, you know it's doing its work. It's actually doing something. If you don't get any ammonia smell on it, like if you put it on a piece of glass and rub it around, it's not doing anything at all. You don't get the ammonia smell. Because that's how Brasso cleans, right? It takes the nitrogen out, right, of... Any questions? Well, that's all.